Okay, in this video we're going to talk about how to graph a quadratic function. And the first thing I want you to notice is that there's three different types of equations for quadratic functions. There's vertex form, intercept form, and standard form. Just like when we did linear functions, remember we had slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and standard form. So these three different equations, you need to recognize all of them, but you'll usually see standard form. Okay, standard form is the one you'll see most often, but you might see vertex form too. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to. That way you guys can finish writing the cover. And then when we hit play, we're going to talk about vertex form. Okay, so vertex form. So vertex form is called vertex form because it shows us the vertex. So if you look at the values h and k are the vertex. One thing I want you to note is that you always change the sign of the number in parentheses before plugging it in for the vertex. So what I mean by that is, if you look at vertex form, you see how it says x minus h? Okay, that minus is always going to be there. If you are writing it in vertex form correctly, you're going to leave it a minus. So that means that even though it says x minus 2 in our example, that's a positive 2. So our vertex is 2, 4 in the example. If our vertex was negative 2, 4, then the equation would say x plus 2, because two negatives would make a positive. The a value in vertex form tells me if my parabola is going to open up or if my parabola is going to open down. So if a is greater than 0, it's going to open up. If a is less than 0, then the parabola is going to open down. So when we look at the example, it says sketch a graph of f of x equals 3 times x minus 2 squared plus 4. Our a is 3, and 3 is greater than 0, so it's going to open up. And our h and k are 2 and 4, so our vertex is 2 and 4. So to graph this, the first thing we're going to do is graph the point. That's the vertex. So I'm going to go over 2, up 4, graph that point, and then I'm going to draw my parabola opening up. Okay, go ahead and pause the video if you guys are still writing. And when we hit play, we're going to go on to the next flap, and we're going to talk about intercept form. Okay, so for intercept form, we always change the signs of the numbers in parentheses to find the x-intercepts. Okay, so when I say that, I'm talking about P and Q. P and Q are our intercepts. So when I look at my first set of parentheses in the example, where it says x minus 4 and x plus 1, okay, that minus 4 is going to be actually a positive 4, and that plus 1 is actually going to be a minus 1. So that means for this quadratic function, my x-intercepts are positive 4 and negative 1. We're going to look at the a value again to see if it's going to open up or down. So if a is greater than 0, it's going to open up. If a is less than 0, it's going to open down. So my example is negative 3 times x minus 4 times x plus 1. So negative 3 is less than 0, so my parabola is going to open down. Again, P and Q are going to be 4 and negative 1. So you're going to graph your x-intercepts 4. So go on your x-axis to 4. Then go on the x-axis to -1, draw the points, and then connect them, but make sure your parabola is opening down. So when you are working with intercept form, you graph the intercepts first, and then decide is the parabola going up or down. Go ahead and pause the video if you guys are still writing. And then the last thing we're going to cover is standard form. Okay, so for standard form we have to do a little bit of extra work to find the vertex. Okay, so with standard form, let's look at the example. I have f of x equals 2x squared minus 12x plus 16. So I'm going to look at my a, my b, and my c. So my a equals 2. 2 is greater than 0, so I know this is going to be opening up. Remember, if it was less than 0, it'd be opening down. Now I have to use b and c to find the vertex. The way we're going to do that is using the vertex formula. Okay, the vertex formula is -b over 2a. Okay, that's one of the formulas you're going to have to memorize for the EOC. So that only gives us the x-coordinate of the vertex. So let's go ahead and use the formula to find the x-coordinate. So I plug in -12 for b, and I'm going to plug in 2 for a. So a -b and a -12 is going to cancel to become a +12. And then 2 times 2 is going to give me 4. So 12 over 4 equals 3. So that means I know my x-coordinate for my vertex is 3. Now to figure out what the y-coordinate is, I'm going to go back to my original function, which is 2x squared minus 12x plus 16, and I'm going to plug in 3 for x. So remember, we do exponents first. So 3 squared is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. Now I'm going to go over and look at 12x. So 12 times 3 is 36. So now I have 18 minus 36 plus 16. So when we do 18 minus 36 plus 16, our answer is -2. So that means that our y-coordinate is -2. So now I'm going to graph the vertex, which is 3, -2. And I know that my parabola is going to open up. So after graphing the vertex, I can open my parabola upwards. Another way to graph a quadratic function using any of these forms is when you find the vertex, you can graph the vertex. Then pick an x value to the right of the vertex and to the left of the vertex. Plug it into the equation to get your y-coordinate, and then you can also graph it that way if you prefer making a table. Okay. If you still are confused, feel free to watch this video again on Schoology, or you can always send me a message on Remind or on Schoology.